Hey, I guess I'll just spend a little time. I look kind of rough, don't I? Yeah, just a little bit. Hello? Oh, okay. I went out for a second. Oop, that's a lot going on in it. So anyway, uh, tonight my heart is achy. So I was on YouTube and I saw someone kind of doing a video blog, and I thought, well, maybe I can remind myself of these promises. Maybe it'll inspire my heart, or at least bandage me up tonight, so I can persist. But just a little brief conversation about something that I found to be really helpful this week, and it comes out of Second Corinthians, the seventh chapter, and I'm looking at it. Uh, it says, "Since we have these promises, dear friends," Paul says, "let us purify ourselves from everything that contaminates body and spirit, perfecting holiness out of reverence for God." And my sister this week was teaching on this, and I found such a great revelation in that first clause. Since we therefore have these promises, let us cleanse ourselves. And I think we focus so much on the get right, do right, that we forget what actually drives and powers the cleansing of ourselves. Since therefore we have these promises. And so I wrote as a note in my Bible, I get it. I get the reason why it took me so long to respond um, to lifestyle changes, and why I continue to do things that dishonor my body, and at times don't respond obediently. I get the life of a prostitute. I get the life of a drug dealer. I get the life of any person that is quote unquote I mean, I should say quote unquote, any person that's doing what we consider so sinful, so unclean. If you don't have a hold of the promises, then what will power your cleansing? You know, and a part of the promise that um, is referenced earlier is, it says that for we are the temple of the living God, as God has said, I will live with them and walk among them, and I will be their God, and they will be my people. It's a promise of His presence. It's the promise of His right now abiding, dwelling. It's the promise that He owns me, that I belong to Him, and He belongs to me. It's the promise of security. It's the connection, um, and then the promises continue. And I just adore the genius of heaven being God Himself, His entire government, the way He operates, because we tend to combat evil or bad with accusation, condemnation, and correction, um, rebuke. But it appears as if God's strategy uh, to bring us into wholeness and cleansing is to give you another promise. What is that? What is that? You're not convinced yet of who you are. I release to you another promise. I release to you another promise. Promise coming out of the covenant and that I made in designing you and releasing you into the earth. See, the truth is that the more we actually identify about and know, connect with what God believes about us and His plan for our life and purpose, the less I need a preacher to tell me what I should and shouldn't do. Because the promises power and generate a cleansing. It's as if I'm suddenly aware that there's a me under here that is valuable worthwhile, loved, and desired by God. And I was talking to one of my kids, one of the young men that I love, and I was kind of hearing his story. And he was talking about the him that does the good things, the church hymn, and then the worldly hymn, as he defined it. And I said, which one of those is the real you? Right, church? What do you think he said? That the real him is the bad him. Don't we live like that? We really live like that. I mean, the Bible tells us to walk worthy of our calling. And the admonition of walking worthy is supposed to like jar in us that we actually, if the calling is set yourself above, then you're worthy of being set above. So we challenge ourselves and we have to really like give some thought to that which one is the real you? Do you think you're the sinful guy? Do you think you're the naughty girl? Or do you think that the truest you is the one made in righteousness and wholeness, and you just need to put a power hose to wash off the residue of a world and a life and an experience and a perspective that like soiled you? And that promise of God is like a hose. It channels and funnels such energy in the love of God in such a way that it blasts away. And how long does it take? How long? Oh God. But anyway, I thought about that today and I just thought, like, what a message of redemption. It affects the entire way we approach an evangelistic effort. It affects the way that I lead worship because I understand that as much of the promises of God that can be revealed, then people will be drawn to cleanse themselves. And so, we sing under a revelation of this exceptional promise that the Lord has given to us. And some of the promises that do matter the most to me are not about things. I do I do adore the promises that talk about who I will be to others, particularly like downtrodden, typical downtrodden, and those who've been alienated, rejected, cast out, and forgotten, and just given up on. I love the idea that God will make me of value to them to help them uncover and discover and recover. But more than anything, I am really much like David, that whatever you do, don't take your presence. And um, the promise of his presence has always, always led me into a place of brokenness and repentance that I know that I could have just, you know, been engaged in some foolishness, and to be able to lift my hands and sense the nearness of God. Yeah, I know that you say I don't deserve that, because I'm not clean enough. But it's actually that promise that gets me clean. It's good to me.